Hello and welcome to the show. Glad to have you. Welcome to a brand new week. It's IB Nation Sports Talk and August 7th, what Vince and I call Happy Anniversary Day.
That's right.
It's
Happy
not,
anniversary
it's
to you, sir.
to you, sir, as well, and to your wife, of course, because
Yes.
it's not our anniversary. It's
No.
we each have wedding anniversaries today.
It really just meant that our
Amazingly
friendship
enough.
was destined to happen. That's all that it meant because
Did
we
we
met
just
what?
become best friends?
we met about a month, let's say, a month before I got married. So
I was trying to remember. Was it even a full month?
It might not have been.
It seemed like it might have been within weeks, before you got married. So.
Yeah, I think that's probably accurate. So it's not like we planned this. Like that date was already set in stone, and here we are. It's a big one for you. The big 3-0,
right.
Man. The big 3-0.
30. Amazing.
Impressed.
Man, 30 freaking years. It's like, where did any of that, especially when I look at the pictures, it's like I look back and it's like, where did that guy go? What happened to him?
I know the feeling.
Where's all that luscious dark hair? You still have your luscious dark hair. I have.
It's starting to go though. Don't let's not fool anybody. It's starting to go. But and I know you have been adamant about this because I haven't seen you do anything about it. Like you're letting it go. And that's what I'm gonna let nature take its course. It's
I'm
fine.
like as I look at it, because the thing on the back is, getting a little more, the spot on the back or whatever, it grows a little bit obviously all the time. And, it starts to thin a little bit on top. And this summer, I just decided, why am I clinging to these gray scragglies on top? I'm just going to start buzzing the stupid thing. I'm getting closer to that point where it's a matter of time before I become a shaved bald guy.
You're just going for it. Just
yeah, this is I'm inching my way towards it
right
now. So
yeah.
I met Adam here. I got his comment up on the screen. Met Adam outside of practice the other day. Good to see you, Adam, and appreciate your comments. And crying is chances we can get Sean Davis on for an episode of IB Nation Sports Talk. I've thought about that. Like, I need to talk to him and to Brian about, I don't know, like
crossovers,
how any of their, or like their agreements work. Like Sean filled in a month or so ago on a show, and it was awesome having him on. But I got to make sure that, it's going to be worth his while, I guess, to do it more than just the one time.
This is true.
So
now I assume, I guess I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but last year, all the post-game shows, Sean was a part of it.
True.
This year, I'm not 100% sure what that's going to look like. All I know for sure is Ryan and I are at the very least kicking it off. So it'll be Ryan and I for the post-game show, and then Brian will dip in after he gets kind of his written work done, that kind of stuff. And I assume Sean Davis is going to roll through, but we'll have to see. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it would be, like I've thought about, like, even if it's maybe just for a rapid fire or something like that, like once a week where he can pop in and, like do
now you're
bunch of, topics with us or something.
Now
like
you're
that.
thinking
I feel
outside
like
the
that
box.
Would be fun. Yeah.
And I like where your head's at.
But again, I got to make sure everything is, I's are dotted, T's are crossed and all that.
Absolutely.
Good stuff.
Yes. We don't want to get in trouble.
That's right. Well, a show note for tomorrow, by the way, Tuesday. As of now, we are still scheduled to go out and watch a full Notre Dame football practice tomorrow, but that is going to be a night practice at 7:00. We still don't officially have word on where it's going to be. It's like one of those secret key card invitations or something.
I did text the head coach. I did text the head coach that belongs to that field.
Yeah.
Yes. And
but
we're going to be there.
But the general masses don't have official
correct
word, is what I'm saying. Like
correct. He's going to bring me something. That's why.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
I spoke with him. So
because we're going out to watch practice at 7:00 tomorrow night, we're going to start IB Nation Sports Talk at 5 o'clock. So we're going to start an hour early. So for the live show viewers, if you tune in at 6, we're going to be wrapping up. Tune in at 5 o'clock. That's when we're doing. Of course, you can still, watch it after the fact, and you can download the podcast and all that kind of good stuff. But we're going live Tuesday at 5 o'clock, so we can wrap up at 6 and get out to the practice by 7 o'clock. So that is the plan.
It's our last full practice viewing of the year. So hoping for a lot. If I'm not lying to you. I'm hoping
there's a lot
for a little live
tomorrow.
scrimmage.
A lot of pressure.
I'm hoping for something pretty major, to be honest with you, because I can only handle so many 5-period practices. You know what I mean? I mean, we're grateful. Don't get me wrong. We've gotten more 5-period practices than any other time period. You know what I mean? But man, I want to see some real football. That's kind of what I need to see. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Decaf, it will not be at Mishawaka again. It will be at a different area high school.
Yes, but it's under wraps.
Yes, but again, we have not received that official email telling us where and when and all that kind of good stuff.
And they did do a couple of high schools last year. They went to Penn at one point. They went to St. Joe last year. So they went to Mishawaka this year, which they didn't go to last year, and then they're going to go to another school. So sounds like 2 high schools a year kind of a thing. So, interesting.
Josh asking if all practices are going to be evenings. No. As a matter of fact, Josh, we have 2 morning practices, Thursday and Friday mornings that we'll be going to.
Oh, so no, they're at night, brother.
Thursday and Friday?
Mm-hmm.
You sure about that?
100%. They're at 9:30 p.m.
Hold on a second. Really?
Yeah.
Let me double check this.
Because they're pretty much going to their evening.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. They are.
Yeah.
Oh, so we get to watch the first 5 periods at 9:30 p.m. and then come back for interviews at 11:30 at night.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So.
Cool. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
All right.
I thought you'd enjoy that.
Well, it frees up the day, but
not the night.
Interesting. All right. Well,
anybody who's not a night owl, this is not going to work for them. But
I'm glad you pointed that out because I would have looked pretty stupid
showing up at 9:30 in the morning.
This is actually a good thing for me because you and Jesse are going to be doing the mailbag this Wednesday because my wife and I are going back to Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
To celebrate our anniversary. We're going to see Bruce at Wrigley Field, and we're going to eat and all that kind of stuff. But this just means that I don't have to get back at like 1:30 in the morning and then get up and go do.
This is a good point.
Early, practice, but at the same time, it just works the other way around. We get to
solid point.
Get to do interviews at midnight. So
solid point.
Sweet.
So I will answer this one since we're on topic. Irish Chi-Town wants to know, does Notre Dame invite the Penn football team to watch? They did last year when they went to Penn. So my guess is if you're the local team, if you're the team whose field they're using, then they invite at least a portion of the team to go. Last year, it was the whole team. I don't believe that's the case this year, but I could be wrong.
Tommy's asking about logistics. Do you know how they handled it? Did they dress on the bus and were they in uniform when they got off the bus and that kind of thing?
I believe they were in uniform. So basically what they look like when they're coming out of the locker room, normally, how they cross the road to get to the indoor facility, that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
They pretty much come out and they get on a bus, and there's 4 buses with a police escort, and they head off because there are not facilities large enough at any of these high schools to house that big of a team and all their stuff, like indoor. You know what I mean, like indoors for showers and whatnot. But
yeah,
so yeah, they get on the bus and then they head back. I mean, it's like a 5-10 minute drive. You know what I mean? Especially with the schools that they've been going to. So it's not too bad.
I'm still thinking about midnight interviews right now. I'm sorry.
Is that what does it say? 11:30 is when their post game interviews are going to be?
When else are we going to? It doesn't say specifically.
I didn't know if they were just going to cut off the interviews completely.
No, I mean, the interviews are part of the schedule. I just didn't.
Okay.
I was not. I guess I need to pay. I obviously need to play closer attention, but the practices that we've had have been 9:30 a.m. And
Correct.
so as you scroll, I just have kind of done, glossaries, kind of look at this,
Sure.
schedule that they laid out for us. And there are 9:30s across the board. The difference is beginning this Thursday, August 10th,
Mm-hmm.
as you pointed out, it is 9:30 p.m., but it still says 9:30. So I just, like I said, I wasn't
Right. Of course.
paying that close attention, but we have Marty Biaggi in special teams after Thursday's
Okay.
practice, Chancey Stuckey in wide
Jeez.
receivers after Friday's practice.
Yep.
And then Saturday, we don't get practice access, but
Okay.
we talked to Marcus Freeman at noon in the stadium. And then 2 times next week, Tuesday and Wednesday, we have 9:30 p.m. once again with Dela McCullough and running backs and Mike Mickens and corners after those 2 practices. So
Okay.
the answer is yes. Practice still starts at 9:30, but as Vince pointed out, it is p.m. and we still have the interviews afterwards, which means they will begin somewhere around 11:30 at night. So yeah.
We'll see. I'm going to try to make it to those. But
you're a night owl. I was going to say you can come.
Well,
come on over, Vince.
Well, Dylan's got games, so I don't.
It's always my kid has games.
I'm just saying,
I've played that game before. Come on, what are you?
You got the football scrimmage on Friday night, Sean Stiers. High school football's kicking off.
Yeah. We'll talk about the Ireland uniforms in rapid fire.
Yes,
We've got a lot of stuff we're going to talk about. Some things that the Under Armour comments from Sam Hartman that I tweeted about. And what else? Notre Dame is in the where Notre Dame is in the coaches poll and some other stuff. But let's talk about what we saw today, and more importantly, I think what we saw Saturday. They were, in full pads Saturday. We've got to see a pair of practices since Friday. Saturday morning, full pads, and then today they were not in full pads. Saturday, very physical. Today, the opposite of very physical. Would you say, because we've talked about, what do you really see at these 5-period practices? Would you say Saturday's 5-period practice was the most eventful 5-period practice maybe that we've ever got to see?
I feel you add in the caveat of 5-period practice, and so that lowers the bar dramatically for
that's my
excitement.
Point.
Yeah,
because the bar is typically pretty low for these.
It's
things.
very, very low. Like today was a snooze fest overall, as far as things to see, that kind of a thing. But yeah, I mean, they were full pads. They were knocking heads. They were doing some goal line stuff. I mean, it was about as hot and heavy as we've ever seen for a 5-period practice. Now, I think some members of the media blew it a little bit out of proportion. But I will say that it was very entertaining for the 25 minutes that we were there.
That never happens, Vince. Nobody ever goes overboard with their opinions and takes.
There's definitely a take that's out there right now that is crazy, but we'll see if that actually comes to fruition on Saturday.
Tell me. Can you tell me?
Who's starting on the offensive line?
Oh, so we're making starters.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Maybe we get a glimpse of that tomorrow night.
That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping tomorrow we can kind of put that nonsense to rest. Yeah. And I don't mean to disparage the kid that they think is starting, but if that's the case, then there's a bigger problem at hand. How about that?
Oh, so I'm guessing that somebody thinks Emil Wagner is starting then. Is that?
No, just somebody else.
Somebody else.
Left guard.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
I'm going to text you.
Okay.
Because I don't want to perpetuate rumors. You know what I mean? Because
then
if it does happen, then I'm going to look like a real idiot. But, I don't see that as happening. But I guess you just never know. But I would be shocked if that was the case.
Yeah, I would too. Just because there's been a lot of mixing and matching out there. And
that's what fall camp is for.
Yeah, and we're 2.5 weeks away. We're 19 days as of today. That is still almost 3 weeks away. It's
correct.
Just 2 days shy of 3 weeks away. I think that, as this week kind of, crescendos, whatever you want to call it, you go up and then you come back to I think by the end of this week, I would think that they're probably going to stop sort of dabbling with some of that stuff, and you'll see a more consistent, starting what looks like a starting unit out there, because they've they've been mixing, matching, cross training, seeing where guys could fit for the future, looking at some backup spots, I think, and that kind of stuff. So I'm
Sure. And they're
definitely
seeing
not
where everybody
reading too
fits
much
best.
into what we've seen so far, but if we get to see some live stuff tomorrow night, that could, definitely put some more on that. But
Yes, absolutely.
we'll see.
I
We'll see.
appreciate Salty having my back here. Kind of. It's kind of like a backhanded compliment here. It's, Vince, you don't have to worry about looking like an idiot because of that. I'll look like an idiot because of a lot of other things. So
Because
thanks,
of,
Salty. I appreciate that.
there are plenty of other things I can look like an idiot about, but not that.
It's like when my kids try to get me in trouble with my wife. I'm like, first of all, I didn't do what you're saying. Second of all, I got my own problems that I can get myself in trouble. I don't need your help.
That's right.
All right.
To get in plenty of trouble by myself. I don't need you to help me, kid. Get out of the way.
Yes,
got
exactly.
plenty. I got a few videos from Saturday's practice
stuff.
And let's start off. They they started off in the red zone. They've got wide receivers and cornerbacks matched up, and the period, one of the big highlights was this right here. Jaden Thomas making that back shoulder catch against Cam Hartman.
That's big. I mean, it was big because it was real good coverage, but it was an even better throw and catch. I mean, and sometimes that's just the way that goes. You know what I mean? Sometimes there's nothing you can do as a defender. Sometimes the throw is just that good, and sometimes the catch is that much better. And that was the case. It was a beautiful little back shoulder action. And I mean, look at this, just a perfectly placed ball. It was great coverage. It's a great coverage, but that was something else right there.
Alex talking about the energy, and I think that was kind of foreshadowing what we were going to get from that practice.
Yes.
Because like after that, they all sprint over there and they're all hype, obviously. And then what you don't see is they all, like a bunch of guys are like running back toward the middle of the field. And I heard a couple of guys yelling, "Come on, let's scrimmage. Like they were ready to go and hit some people Saturday.
Right.
That is for sure. And you're going to see some of that hitting here in some of these other videos that I've got coming up. But that was a good start.
No, it was a great start. It was a friggin' fantastic start.
Yeah.
No doubt. Now, some people in the chat are wondering about the time, why they're doing it at night, things like that. So right now it is 6:19 here in South Bend / Granger / whatever.
It's because of the time difference between
it's 11:19 in Ireland. So so what is that, a 5-hour difference? So really, I mean, practicing at 9:30 at night doesn't really do anything for you from an Ireland standpoint, because that's literally the middle of the night.
Yeah, it's like 4 a.m.
So that's a little, you know what I mean? So that doesn't really.
But they're kind of trying to get their bodies used to going.
Well,
would it be a little bit later?
And they're obviously practicing at night because they have class during the day coming up here pretty soon. So they're probably getting ready. It's like all the high schools now next week, because they all start school. They're all going to their regular, like after school style practices, right? Now, 9:30 is still pretty late, but my guess is they're going to start practicing later because of classes and whatnot. So,
right. Yeah. So a little bit later in that practice Saturday, they had receivers blocking gunners, kind of a special teams kind of drill. Things got a little bit chippy between Jaden Mickey and Rico Flores Jr. And here is that one. I always love it. They've got the music blaring in the background and all that kind of stuff. Take a look at it one more time and boom.
One thing you don't have to worry about with Jaden Mickey is him being quiet.
No, the emotion's going to be there.
Always.
For sure.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah, he's all, and he'll start chirping even if he doesn't even do anything all that great. You know what I mean? He's just a chirper, man. That's just who he is. And you don't, as a coach, you don't want to take that away from him. You don't want to because there's a lot of coaches that wouldn't like that. And I get it, right? But a kid like that, you don't want to take that away from him, because then he doesn't play very well.
There's some more chirping from another player that's going to be coming up here in a little bit that I'm curious to kind of get your thoughts on. But just this was again, Saturday was about competing, and this was one of the first, sort of contact drills, especially with the receivers. what can these guys do as blockers? And you've kind of been there before, and that
Sure.
it's definitely the overlooked part of being a wide receiver, but being a blocker is part of that deal. And how
Hey.
physical can you get? Saturday was about
Yep.
testing some physicality out there.
If you can't block, you can't play. I mean, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
because yes, I need you to catch and run routes and all that. But if you can't block, you can't play. And so they were getting physical during this practice. And they were, they do a lot of special teams up front, at the beginning of these 5-period classes. And that's what he does is they force feed the kind of the physicality and the blocking and the, that kind of stuff. And they always intermingle the offense and the defense. And it's intense at times, and it was definitely the most intense we've ever seen it at the beginning of practice on Saturday.
For sure. Again, that's what I'm saying. It had to be one of the more eventful 5-period practices that we got, because they all start with stretching, and then they're basically just position drills and stuff like that.
Right.
With maybe a little bit, like we've seen some pass routes and stuff like that, but we definitely have not seen this kind of contact for a while at the start of one of these 5-period practices. Now, I don't have the video of JD Bertrand blowing up Jabron Payne.
That was beautiful.
But I do have JD Bertrand against Audric Estime right here. We'll check that out real quick. Play that one more time real quick. You see Estime doing a pretty good job. And I mean, that's really just two strong, good athletes.
Oh, yeah.
Two bulls going head to head right there.
Yeah, look, JD is not his forte is not going to be the spin move in the backfield. That's not going to be his thing. It is like Jalen Snead's thing. Like he has a really nice spin move when he's trying to get off of a block. When JD just muscles a guy and pushes him backwards, that's where JD is going to be the most effective. And that's where he was the most effective against Jabron Payne. That's for sure. Yeah. Because Jabron Payne was like a stain on the sheet after he was done. I mean, he just ran him over.
Yeah.
Just absolutely ran him over.
Josh said he doesn't understand the purpose of that drill. I'm not sure if he's talking about the previous one.
I think he's talking about the Jaden Mickey drill. So that was a special teams drill. And the whole point of it was going down and you're blocking while staying in your lane and making sure he doesn't get to the ball carrier. It's a special teams drill.
The dummy is basically the punt returner.
Right.
And it's like a gunner trying to block, or the receiver trying to block the gunner.
Correct.
Downfield on punt coverage.
Yep.
Now, he said he also saw a drill where the offensive linemen were getting handoffs. And that was basically it was an offensive line, defensive line thing. And I think we've actually got some of that here in just a second.
Oh, okay.
And that was more,
they were just mimicking
those position groups were together. So they just kind of let the offensive linemen have a little fun being ball carriers, just like the defensive line, like just follow the handoff.
It was just so that you could
line blocks.
It was just so you could see the track of what the ball carrier would be doing behind the offensive line. It wasn't
about the offensive lineman being a ball carrier. It was just it was for the guys in front of them. And again, you kind of let an offensive lineman who never gets to touch the ball have a little bit of fun, pretending he's out there with the ball. So that takes me to Riley Mills.
Oh, this one.
And Blake Fisher. And
this was unfortunate for Blake Fisher.
this was. It's like Blake Fisher, wants to know, can I have that wiped from the internet forever? Can I have that scrubbed? How do I get that down? Well,
it's not good.
Not on this show. Here we go.
Riley! Hey, Riley! Whoa, 80. Set 100. Hey, Riley! Oh, my God! Oh, my God!
That's what happens.
47, of course, was Jason Anye with the hey Riley, and then running through there all crazy. I'll play that one more time. This is man versus man again right here.
Well, and this is why no matter how big you are, leverage still matters. And when you put your head down and you get your upper body in front of your lower body, it's easy for a defensive lineman to shed you. So, you can't do that.
Look at the just the man strength that Riley Mills has on this. Boom.
I mean, he threw around a 320-pound dude like he was nothing.
I know.
Even though, Fisher had he's in terrible position, right? That was the problem. Like I said, his front half was over his bottom half, and so he was off balance. And Riley took 100% advantage of that. And it's like I always tell my wide receivers when they used to block, take them where their momentum is going. Fisher's momentum was going into the ground. And so he's like, okay, you can go too. Yep. And that's what happened. But it's still like, even if Fisher did that to me, I couldn't throw him to the ground. So
Blake Fisher is 6'6", 310 pounds.
Yeah.
Now Riley Mills is not much smaller. He's 306 pounds himself, but that is a move. That the strength that he has with his own upper body is very. I'm going to play this one more time just because.
Hey Riley! Hey Riley!
Like, does Anye know what's coming? Like, why is he chirping there?
God, that's a good question. He maybe he's just trying to pump him up.
Whoa, 80. Said Hartman. Hey Riley! Oh my God! Oh my God!
I love that.
There goes Jason Anye.
That's your backup defensive lineman, by the way.
Yeah.
Just having a great time, man. Just chirping and having a great time.
That's right. And speaking of Jason Anye, he had. I saw that Tommy was looking for it. Let me see if I can. I'm a little slow with my cues here. We need a producer. This is what we need a producer.
I know. Seriously.
All right. Here is Jason Anye and Rocco Spindler. He's happy. He's happy, bro. He's happy. So this was the drill that Josh was talking about with the running back as the ball carrier.
Okay.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just happy.
Al Washington's just got a smile on his face like, yep, just do your thing.
Yep. That's what I want from my defensive players. And that's exactly what I want from my offensive players, just doing what you do quietly. Like, okay, cool. Let's go again. Everything about Saturday made me smile, offensively, defensively. Like, it was great, man. But again, you got to carry it over. Like, it has to carry over to sound defensive play as well. But right now, being third week of practice or wherever they are, second week of practice, I think. I know we're starting week 3. So this is the third week of practice, and they're still happy and excited and fired up. And I mean, that's what you want to see, because they're getting into the dog days now.
Yeah. Where
it's not new anymore. They've had full pads on for a week. That's why they didn't have pads on today, by the way, because they're trying to give them a little bit of a break. But this is where you just start to kind of like, another practice. Here we go. And they're still fired up and playing. So I kind of dig it, man. The coaches are doing something right if these kids are that fired up after 2 full weeks of practice.
Yeah, I agree. Nick was saying it's going to make Blake better, and Riley is going to destroy people. Of course, talking about that play. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Blake's going to know he can't do that.
He can't. Yeah, you can't be leaning with your chest forward like that.
Exactly.
That's what your legs and your butt are for. You got to you got to keep better balance.
That will work on a lot of people. It will. Yeah. I mean, because Blake's a big, strong dude, right? That's going to work on a lot of different guys. It's not going to work on guys as big and as strong as Riley Mills. And so the 3 or 4 games that you have where you're going to be going up against guys as strong as Riley Mills, you have to have more sound fundamentals than what Blake Fisher had in that particular rep. I'm not saying he's like that all the time, guys, okay? He's a very, 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 very good offensive tackle, okay? But
Riley Mills is a very good defensive tackle as well. And I'm of the opinion that with him settled in at that position and with this extra weight and with the extra strength that he has, he's not going to destroy every right tackle or left tackle or who, like that on a regular basis. But I think he's going to have a pretty good season this year.
I agree.
I think he's going to have
100%.
a really good season this year. And Josh says he's been hearing good things about Anye, and that goes back to the spring. And that's another guy he's
not even starting.
this is not, like with the exception of like Riley Mills at, what is that, like almost 6'5" and 306. He's the biggest defensive lineman they have. And so, beyond him, they don't have a ton of size, but what they do have is numbers. And I think between the potential havoc that a really quick defensive line like they have with the depth that they have to go with it, I think it can ultimately be a really good defensive line. It's going to come down to, the depth is going to have to compensate. The depth and the quickness, the destructiveness that they've talked about a lot this spring, that's going to have to compensate for the size thing. And
sure,
just across the board, I think we've seen really good things along those lines so far. I think I said spring, but fall, obviously.
Wherever we are, it's all good.
Yeah,
we're good.
David wants to know if VD21 was 20 years old, which football position would he play?
Well, I mean, okay. You made me younger, but you didn't make me any taller. So when I was in high school, which would have been 2 years prior to being 20, I was a wide receiver and a free safety. So, that's what I played. I was not a great football player. Let's be real clear on that. I was a much better coach than I ever was a player. So I enjoyed it. Still have some of my best friends were the guys I played football with, that kind of a thing. But yeah, I passed all my athletic genes onto my own kid. So he's way more athletic than I ever was.
It's the way to do it. That's the way to do it.
That's right.
Father David says, D-line seemed like one of the biggest questions of the offseason, just like corner last year. Hopefully it goes the same way. I think it's trending in that direction. Now they've got to go out and actually play against teams with different colored jerseys on. But, again, like I'm saying, just based on some things that we've seen, there is reason for a lot of optimism with this defensive line. Again, they're not going to overpower, with the exception of Riley Mills and, like maybe Botello or, like they're not going to overpower people, with few exceptions. But I think between the depth and the quickness that they have, that can really, cause some problems in those gaps, I think that they can be a really good unit this season.
I completely agree. And they're going to be athletic. They're going to be quick. They're going to be, for what they lack in size, I don't think they lack it in strength.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is important. You know what I mean? And I think you're going to see that. I think at the very least, you're going to see some stalemates. And at that point, that's good because offensive linemen want to move you out of the way. Stalemate them. You know what I mean? Create a wall where the running back has nowhere to go, right? Now, that doesn't help you out very much when you're trying to pass rush, but that's what the outside guys are for. And those guys have gotten quicker and their moves have gotten better. And I think they're going to be able to get some pressure on the quarterback. Now, they're going to have to do that in the middle as well. But I think you're going to see faster and stronger defensive line as a whole than you have in the last couple of years.
Completely agree. So that was all the excitement was at Saturday's practice. And again, like just look at that. Like that's what we got to see out there. Some of those kind of plays. And like I said, I didn't even have the Bertrand Jabron Payne play that everybody was talking about. And, like to Payne's credit, because he did get blown up on that one particular play, he came back and had a pretty good rep after that.
He stalemated him. Yeah. I mean, that's all you can ask for in that particular situation. Right. He stalemated him, which is great.
Just like Blake Fisher's not going to get blown up on every play, No. So that's the important thing to remember. These are, snapshots of what you get to see. It's one rep over the course of a lot of reps during practice. Excuse me. So as for today, a lot less exciting. They were not in full pads today, but we got to see some kicking.
Yeah, we did.
Place kicking at the start of practice today. Were you impressed by what you saw?
My opinion of Spencer Schrader, I think, was reinforced from the last time we saw some kicking. The kid's got a boom leg. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It gets height right away. All right. Oh, there's one right there. I mean, look at that. That's over the top of the
They were, as you can hear, they were typing in crowd noise.
Yes.
No, the kickers were kicking.
52-yard attempt.
This is a 52-yard attempt. go ahead and turn off the crowd noise. We don't need it.
But
52
look at that.
yard
I mean,
attempt.
that
got
just
the leg.
explodes off of his foot. The problem was
hooked it.
it hit the wind and just died.
Right.
But the kid's got a leg, man. He will have no problem kicking 50-plus field goals if the need arises, in a late game situation. Now, when he has missed slightly to the left.
That's what I noticed. He's got a little bit of a.
It's got a little bit of
little hook,
draw.
Little hook on it.
Is it a hook?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can tell how much I play golf. But
well, I don't golf either. But the hook goes this way. The slice goes away. Yeah.
Tommy guns.
I had a bad slice on mine.
Oh,
or did I have a?
So you went that way? Like, you can't see me, but Tommy says Vince is standing there thinking to himself, Dylan can do this.
That's right.
I'd be lying if I said that thought hadn't crossed my mind at times, but Spencer Schrader's got a really, really strong leg.
Big leg.
So,
yep.
I mean, it's, last year, Groupie had a really strong leg, despite the fact that he was 5'8", but the ball exploded off of his foot. The problem was with Groupie is you never really knew where it was going to go. That was the biggest issue with him, right? I mean, strong leg, but, I would say Spencer Schrader has an equally strong leg. It doesn't have the sound when toe meets ball that Groupies did, but it's more of a high, it's got more hang time than anything Groupie ever did in the past. And I think it goes a little further, to be honest with you. Groupies was more of a line drive style. Spencer Schrader's is really just gets some height and goes deep. And so I think the kicking game is going to be just fine. I'm really not worried about that at all.
Yeah, and I think we've kind of talked before. It's kind of almost the way to go is, especially if you're Notre Dame, there's going to be grad transfer kickers available every year, and that they'd like to come to Notre Dame.
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
I saw the comment about Rubio. You're right. He and Mills are about the same size. Whether or not he's in the too deep, I think that is still TBD.
That's debatable at this point. I think they're both 306. Because I pulled up the roster when you said that. I was like, oh, really? And you were right. I mean, that's, from a weight standpoint, the heaviest guy on the team is Charles Jagasaw at 330. And then your first defensive lineman is Aiden Kiana. He's 309. And then
I forgot about him, but we haven't seen a whole lot of him.
No, we haven't. And then Gabriel Rubio and Riley Mills are both 306. And those are the only guys over 300 on the defensive line.
Yeah.
So,
and Rubio, based on what we've seen and based on what Al Washington talked about last week, he's kind of the cutoff in terms of what the defensive line rotation might be. Because I think we talked about this on last week's show, if I remember right. You've got Jean-Baptiste and Osafa Mensah at field end, Cross and Anye at nose, and then Kiana Aina would be the number 3 nose behind them, not getting near the reps. Mills, I guess actually, Rubio potentially at defensive tackle, but, Tyson Ford is in that mix, I think, a little bit more right now than Rubio. Now, hold it. We're talking about Gobira. Never mind. Rubio is there, and then Ford as well.
Okay.
And then Botella, Tuialamaka. Yeah, so you would have Mills, Rubio, and Ford potentially in rotation at defensive tackle. Burnham, the third Viper, stands a chance to be in the mix. And again, Gobira is kind of the cutoff in terms of you've got with Burnham in there and Ford, that takes you to 10, and then Gobira, I think right now would be the 11th guy with, just some technique and kind of, always being assignment ready and those kind of things. I think that's still kind of the thing for Gobira, kind of figuring a little bit out.
Sure. Makes sense.
Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, well, we talked about, what would it mean if they went, 9 or 10 deep or whatever it was on the defensive line. I think that's only a good thing. That means these guys are forcing their way onto the field. It's not a matter of, well, crap, these top guys suck. We need to go find somebody else. I don't feel like that's the case. I feel like some of these guys are, starting to make a name for themselves and starting to push their way onto the field, even if it's, in limited numbers or limited snaps. I think these guys are pushing their way onto the field, which is all you can ask for as a position coach and as a head coach. So
Right. And we don't have an official 2 deep right now.
no, and we're not going
So-
to get one until the week of the Navy game. So
Yeah. And if this was Michigan, we wouldn't get one.
Oh,
So
had to bring them up, didn't you?
oh, just to make you smile. Just to make you smile, Vince. That's what it's for. All right. Well, that's a little practice notes. Are you ready for rapid fire?
Let's do it. I got to pull it up.
Fill in the blank.
Go
The
ahead.
preseason coaches poll is out. And
Yes.
it's blank. The Fighting Irish are in at number 13 in the first coaches poll.
Typical, I guess. I mean, I'm fine with it. I think it's a skosh low. I would have them anywhere from 8 to 12 and be fine with it. You know, you know what I mean? Like they've got plenty of opportunities in their schedule. Like if I was Michigan, for example, okay, if I was Michigan and I was preseason ranked like 15 or something like that, I'd be nervous because their schedule is a bunch of cupcakes, and so it would be difficult. Now, granted, they would be undefeated, but it would be difficult to continue to climb the polls because of the weakness of their schedule, right? But they're ranked number 2. And so, or somewhere around there, I think they're 2, but they'll just stay
Michigan's
there.
number 2. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll just stay there because they'll keep winning. So their strength of schedule doesn't even matter quite as much. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
like,
Odds
Notre
are
Dame
they'll be
has-
there until November because they're not going to play anybody
Exactly.
until November.
Exactly. So Notre Dame has plenty of opportunities to climb up these polls just by winning, you know, because they've got some big dogs on their schedule in September and October, et cetera, et cetera. So 13's fine. I mean, it's fine for now. Some of the ones ahead of them are a little suspect, but
Yeah.
whatever.
I mean, I guess Notre Dame's got enough questions that may, you know, like you can, like 13, I don't think is a major slight. It's ballpark anyway. And that's kind of, you know, why some people say, well, you shouldn't even do polls until, you know, like October 1st or, you know, whatever, when you find out what teams are and stuff like that. But hey,
Right.
guess what? It is August 7th. We have the first coaches poll.
Right.
And now we have something to talk about. So
And the other school, besides the like 8 schools that are playing in week 0, right? Every other school in the nation has like 3 practices under their belt,
right.
which means they haven't even put on full pads. But we'll make a preseason poll. We'll get it
that's
out
very
there.
true. That's true. You know, because Notre Dame obviously started a week earlier than everybody
Right.
else because of the fact they're playing in week 0. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, the only 3 teams I 4 maybe. I'll just run through the whole thing for maybe people who haven't seen it. You got Georgia at number 1, then Michigan, Alabama, Ohio State. I don't think anyone's probably got any problems with them, even though, as Vince mentioned, you know, Michigan's schedule, what actually are they? I mean, they're kind of like Notre Dame. Michigan's schedule is going to come, or Michigan's season is going to come down to like 2 or 3 games. It's really going to be,
Sure.
you know,
Penn State, Ohio State.
Penn State,
that's
Ohio
about
State,
it.
Michigan State. Like,
Yeah.
Michigan State's not
Michigan
that good, but
State,
just because it's a rival. And
Right,
for
of
the last
course.
couple of years, Michigan State did own, you know, Jim Harbaugh. But then number 5, LSU. Number 6, USC. Number 7, Penn State. Not really sold
No.
completely on them.
No.
Then Florida State. Then Clemson. Tennessee. Great system they had last
Sure.
year. New quarterback. Joe Milton going to be the guy? Don't really know yet. Washington, Texas, and Notre Dame. So, like, I think you can make a case really for anybody from, what is that, like 7 through 13 could be interchangeable.
Absolutely. 100%. Like, you know, and it's amazing. This year, I feel like there's going to be even more parity than in past years, because if you go 1 through 13, how many of those schools are starting quarterbacks that have like minimal to 0 experience as a potential quarterback? It's the majority of those schools.
Right.
The only schools that are bringing back quarterbacks of any kind of substance is Michigan. And I think that's debatable, but he started all last year. Okay, fine. So Michigan
Had a high recruiting rating.
He did have that, even though Notre Dame passed on him.
Right.
So Michigan is one. Who else? Florida State, I believe.
What are we talking about? Experienced quarterbacks?
Experienced quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Texas,
Well,
I guess you could say.
LSU, USC,
USC, of course.
Florida State, Washington, because they've got Penix. Texas, sort of like none of the thing is, none of these guys are more experienced than Sam Hartman. It's just that Hartman wasn't here at Notre Dame last year.
Absolutely. So. And that's why that you're kind of making my point for me then, is because Notre Dame does have an experienced quarterback.
Right.
Arguably the most experienced quarterback of anybody in the top 13. Right. Yeah. And I think that bodes well for Notre Dame. I mean, we'll see what happens. Obviously, you got to play the games. But
if you put Hartman up head to head against any of the quarterbacks in the top 10 or the top, 13, really, Caleb Williams, maybe Penix. Like, who are you going to take over Hartman? Like, any of these teams, I think, would love to have Sam Hartman. Like, Caleb Williams and maybe Penix are the only ones I think you can definitely say.
And that's a hot maybe.
Have a head-to-head quarterback advantage.
That's a hot maybe because Penix, after he lost his offensive coordinator, was not good. He had one good year, one terrible year, one better than average year at Washington, and now he's got another year at Washington, right? That's pretty much how it went down. So,
but he was reunited with his coordinator at Washington.
Correct. So, I don't know, man. Trying not to look at it from a Notre Dame point of view, but when you're in the top 20 for total yards and touchdowns in college football history, it's a pretty tough argument to make that you would take somebody else. The only one I would definitely take over Hartman right now is Williams because he has a Heisman Trophy.
Exactly. He's the only one I would definitely take.
Yeah, that's it.
Over him. I saw Crying Belly was saying they're discounting the level of talent in the ACC. I mean, I don't know about that because look at where they've got Florida State and Clemson. They've got them both. They've got them back to back pretty high. So I don't think it's necessarily about that. I think it's probably a little bit more about the system that Hartman was in. People, obviously NFL people had questions about that and how that could translate.
Sure.
Big part of why he's here. And also the, losing what everyone thought was going to be a first-round draft pick like Michael Mayer and just all the inexperience that nobody has seen at wide receiver. We've seen the talent out there because we do get to go to some practices and see what those guys look like, but no one's seen it on game day.
Right.
So,
exactly.
I mean, you should actually be happy about that as a Notre Dame fan because that combination is going to catch a lot of people off guard, I think.
Right.
So,
and everybody's saying Drake May over Sam Hartman. That's fine from an NFL standpoint. I get that. But we're talking about
the teams that were in this ranking.
Right.
Yeah, North Carolina is not ranked ahead of Notre Dame.
Not there. So that's why Drake May is not part of this conversation.
Right.
That's all. Yes, Drake May has a higher NFL ceiling than Sam Hartman does. I'm not going to get an argument from me on that. But I'm talking about the teams that are above Notre Dame in the poll right now. There's only one quarterback I would take over him, and that's a great position to be in if you're Notre Dame.
But that can also change within
absolutely
because it happens basically every February, right? Even if it doesn't happen during the season, it happens every February. There's going to be a couple quarterbacks who nobody was talking about during the season who people are going to be talking about, oh, should he be a top 10 pick? Should he go number 1? Where does he deserve to go? All this stuff. So Sam Hartman can make a really big case for himself.
Absolutely.
In terms of his pro future with, that's what the next, 5 months are going to show.
Sure. And we got this one, and I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but Jeffrey says almost every quarterback in the top 15 is going to have to prove it on the field, including Hartman.
Yeah.
I mean, he's top 20 all time in yards and touchdowns. I think he's proven a lot on the field. Now, he has to prove that he can do it at a higher level like at Notre Dame. Agreed. But I think he's proven a lot on the field already.
I do too. And again, I think it's more about can he succeed in a more traditional system, something that's going to look like what he could play in the NFL. I think that's going to go a long way for him.
Right. But we'll see. Again, I hope he looks like he did when he was at, Wake Forest at Notre Dame. If we just get that Sam Hartman, then Notre Dame's going to be just fine. If we get an elevated play Sam Hartman in a pro-style offense with better players around him, look out, folks. Like, this is going to be a fun year.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if Tim is being serious here or not. Would you guys really rather have Williams after last year?
He's talking about the specifics to when he wrote, F the Irish on his nails and all that other
No,
crap. Look, he's an a-hole.
We're talking
Okay.
about talent. We're not talking about what he
Right.
does with his fingernails or
Right.
whatever. Yeah.
I would
And
still
honestly,
think the guy
if
was
he
more
played for
talented.
Notre Dame, he would have something that said FUSC on his fingernails.
100%.
It's all interchangeable. It just, he started off at Oklahoma. So,
and look, hey man, Tim, you're a true fan. I love you for it. That's awesome. I get what you're saying. We're trying to take an objective view from a talent standpoint. Caleb Williams is about to be the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. Okay? So it's got a lot of talent, and you'd be silly to turn him down. And if he was your quarterback, you'd love him. You would love the way he was acting.
Jeffrey says, talented a-hole for sure. Well,
I mean,
I've got news for you. Like Barry Bonds was not the most liked guy in the world, but he was a pretty damn good baseball
Correct.
player. So it's like the ranks of college and professional athletes are filled with talented a-holes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of talented good guys too, but there's a lot of talented a-holes. So
that is correct.
A talented non-a-hole, Sam Hartman, as far as we know, anyway.
Wow. I mean, yeah.
Asked this weekend about going from a Nike school, Wake Forest, of course, was Nike, to an Under Armour school, Notre Dame. Sam Hartman said, quote, "It's just gear." And he was asked, really? And he said, yeah, it's just gear. So I tweeted this. Unsurprisingly, it is at least somewhat polarizing, which, was actually part of the way the question was phrased about, the fact that it has been among the fans a polarizing topic. Some people say he was coached to say that. I mean, there's no denying that Notre Dame players are coached on what to say and what not to say to the media. I don't think that this was one of those things, though. Personally, I don't think he kind of cares a lot. Honestly,
he's 24 years old.
Guy. Yeah,
I think he's 24 years old, and
I think
he's
over a lot of that. Yeah, that's exactly right.
I really think he's just, I don't want to say too mature to care about gear, because most of the fans that are upset about this are probably his age or just a little bit older. But he probably doesn't care. Like, that's the least. If you ranked if you ranked the things that Sam Hartman is worried about over the next 5 months, the Under Armour contract at Notre Dame
is not one
pretty stinking low on the list. Okay, very, very low. So I'm not surprised that he said that. No, and I highly doubt that if he was coached to say that, the coaching wouldn't have been, it's just gear. Like, that would not have been, hey, say this if they ask you about it.
And
it would
quite
have been,
honestly,
I love Under Armour. It's great.
Most of his questions were most of his answers to questions Saturday were in the paragraph long. I'm holding my hands like long and so you go from like very expansive answers to
just gear.
It's just gear.
Exactly.
So a couple tweet responses or X responses or whatever the hell we're supposed to call it now. If it's just gear, show us a poll from all players and equipment managers showing which equipment/gear they prefer. Survey should include design, quality, comfort, performance, selection choices, equipment options, and manufacturing experience. #empirical data. I bet that
really
guy's
think the
really
equipment
fun.
managers
That guy's really fun at parties, by the way. I bet.
Do you think the equipment managers really give a crap what they're giving out to the players? Like, as it passes through their hands to be given out?
Right.
Like, come on, dude.
Right. And that's Sam Hartman was asked a question and he answered it. Every player you ask this question is going to have their own opinion / answer. Now, obviously, if it's behind closed doors or with microphones and cameras in front of you, you might get different answers.
Right.
But again, like how deep do we have to take this?
Well, and then also, here's the thing. Sam Hartman is not going to be here when the new contract starts.
Yeah. He was
Doesn't
going to
make
be
it
here for Under Armour no matter what.
right. So it makes zero difference to that man what contract that Notre Dame has in the future.
Yeah.
So,
I'm just imagining that guy, like in the corner at, in the office and at parties arguing with everybody with every pedantic little detail that, pops into his head. Another tweet, studies show that Nike schools are more likely to make the college football playoff and win national championships. Same is true across all sports.
no, it's not.
That response actually lacks empirical data, by the way. Like, where is your studies show that Nike schools are more likely?
First of all, Nike sponsors more schools than anybody else.
Yes.
So the odds are much better.
The correlation between, you're exactly right. The correlation from one to another, there's no actual data that shows that Nike schools are more like.
Right.
I guess there is some data that shows that because of that is basically the gear that they happen to be wearing.
I don't know what the percentages are, and I wouldn't even begin to want to try to figure it out. But the vast majority of Power 5 schools are Nike schools. That's just a fact, right? And so there's a pretty good chance that they're the ones that are going to be winning national championships in football. And it also just so happens that Nike sponsors or whatever the really good football programs. And that has nothing to do with the clothes that they wear. Come on, man.
Tom says, don't you think Sam Hartman is totally focused on his receivers, especially at this point in the preseason? Come on, I'm so tired of the Under Armour deal and all the conference realignments. I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's kind of, and basically Sam Hartman's response was like, I'm over it. I really, it's just gear was basically, who cares? I'm here to play football. That's literally, like if you're going to read
all
into his answer, and that's, I'm here to play football. I'm not here to talk about, what we're wearing and what we're not wearing or anything else.
All he cares about.
I think I know Vince was tired of the whole, what shoe company they're going to be with a long time ago. So,
man,
it's just something you're going to have to live with for basically 11 years. At least 11 years, they're going to be with Under Armour again. So there's
if you don't like it, find a Nike school.
Nothing any of us can do about it. That's right.
I don't know what to tell you.
Just hope that they come out with a Marcus Freeman line. That's my wife. I actually was talking to my wife about this morning. It's like, how stupid do you have to be if you are the apparel company of the most visible college football program in the country, the biggest college football brand in the country, and you've got your head coach out there wearing stuff at practice that he's photographed in every day, and you don't have it for sale to the general public the minute that he wears it and those photos go out. You're literally just costing yourself.
Absolutely.
You're throwing money. You're throwing money down the drain. You're costing yourself money by not having stuff ready to go.
No doubt. I completely agree with that. That's a missed opportunity. That's a missed opportunity. They had the Navy uniforms in the bookstore as soon as they made the announcement. There's no reason that they can't have the Marcus Freeman stuff in the bookstore as soon as he wears it.
Let's talk about that. Fill in the blank. Notre Dame's alternate uniforms for the Navy game in Ireland are blank.
I think that they are traditionally simple, and I'm cool with it. I really am. I think it's a
little things on the shoulders.
Yeah,
like
you know what?
Shamrock kind of thing, and
there's a flag on the back, like on the collar, that kind of a thing. I like them. I think that they are Notre Dame's home uniforms with a little touch of Ireland to them. Okay, I'm cool with that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, they look solid. They're nothing spectacular. I'd always like to see when they do alternate stuff, maybe something a little bit more added to the helmet, especially since they are going to Ireland. Like a shamrock, or maybe like a bigger Irish flag or something like that, since they are the Fighting Irish. But I think it's a solid look. Not going to blow you away by any means, but
it's funny to me, the people that were pissed off about the green on green. It's too much. It's too much. And then they're pissed off about the Navy ones. It's not enough. It's like, I'm just sorry that you're just a depressed person.
I guess I didn't realize so many people were pissed about the green on green, but I shouldn't be surprised, but
I'm sure it's a vocal minority, you know what I mean? But it's the ones that you hear, it's just, I don't know. It's ridiculous.
So Heather Dinich says that after the fall of the Pac-12, they should consider redoing the 2024 college football playoff format to have the 5 highest ranked conference champions and then the 7th highest ranked teams after that make the playoffs. So you'd have 5 automatic qualifiers, 7 at-large bids versus the format that they have agreed to that they're going to play with next year is 6. The top 6 conference champions are the AQs, and then you would have 6 at-large bids after that. So do you buy or sell Dinich's proposal?
It's 100% buy, and I think that's the logical proposal at this point, especially if the Pac-12 isn't going to exist. I think we got to wait to see where the dominoes fall with those last 4. Like, are they going to get wrapped up into the Mountain West? Is the 8 now? We're hearing that the ACC is somewhat interested in Stanford and Cal. Boo! Bad decision. But
don't like that idea.
Let's see what happens with the Final 4. But let's say they rebuild the Pac-12 with a bunch of Mountain West, and they go under the moniker of the Pac-12. Right? Are they a Power 5 conference anymore? No, I don't think they should have an automatic bid at that point, because that's what it is. The Power 5 all have an automatic bid for the champion,
right?
And then it's the next highest rated conference champion, right? So at this point, even if they rebuild the Pac-12 using Mountain West schools, it's not a Power 5 anymore. It needs to be 4+1.
You're bringing up group of 5 teams and calling yourself a Power 5. I definitely think the Pac, right now it's the Pac-4. It's not even the Pac-12. They might still call themselves the Pac-12, but they are not a Power 5 conference. And if they do what you're talking about, bringing up Mountain West schools and bringing in SMU, that's their big move. And it's really the only move they have to try to keep this going. I don't think that they're worthy of an automatic bid. They are essentially, group of 6 at that point, because you're eliminating one of the Power 5 and you're making them not a group of 5 but a group of 6 school.
Right. So does that mean the Mountain West goes away? You know what I mean? I don't know.
Right.
It's a whole wacky scenario at this point, and I just think the Pac-12 is dead, and they just need to, let's let it go quietly into the night at this point, and then you might as well just join up with the Mountain West at this point, because there
really are no other options.
Stanford has other athletic programs that are good, right? But they don't give a crap about football, and it's been obvious for a really, really long time. So let them go and play in the Mountain West. They'll be more than competitive in there, and as a byproduct of that, Notre Dame won't play them every year. It's a win-win for everybody.
That's a good question, because I saw, you brought up that ACC thing, and of course I saw some people, in the replies on Twitter saying, "Oh, is this to appease Notre Dame since Notre Dame plays Stanford every year?" No, that would not be to appease. Bringing Stanford into the ACC is not a move to appease Notre Dame. What Notre Dame ends up doing with that series, I mean, I would just have to think that given the current standing of things, we've talked about replacing Stanford with UCLA on the schedule in that USC California rotation. To me, it just makes more and more sense all the time. And obviously UCLA would have to want to do it, and obviously Notre Dame would have to want to do it. But I think for Notre Dame, again, if your goal is to get out there in California every year, if you alternated with USC and UCLA instead of USC and Stanford, you would get to Los Angeles, the most fertile recruiting grounds in Southern California every year, and you would get one of them here every year. I think it would just make more sense.
I completely agree with you.
They're both obviously in the Big Ten together, so it would be easier for them to make that work, with accommodations with the Big Ten, because they could basically just do what the Pac-12 had done for years, is because USC and Stanford were partners essentially playing Notre Dame. Those two schools had to play at the front of the schedule every year to make those bye weeks during conference play work in October and November. And so it would be very easy for the Big Ten to just drop USC and UCLA into that same kind of rotation. And, if they were both playing Notre Dame every season.
I would be fine with that because I don't see UCLA falling off as far as Stanford has fallen off. You know what I mean? I don't see that being the case. And I get that playing Stanford gets you on the West Coast. Like, I get that part of it, but it doesn't get you into a fertile recruiting area as much.
Right.
You know what I mean? Have they gotten guys from Northern California in the past? Yeah, they have. You're going to get way more talent down in Southern California. And so I would much rather play in the Coliseum and the Rose Bowl down there in LA than up north in Palo Alto. I just don't think that does as much for you. So if they can somehow make that work and UCLA is on board, which I don't know why they wouldn't be, first of all, because that you're guaranteeing yourself a sellout as a home game.
Well,
right?
Look, the TV networks are dictating all of this stuff.
Right.
With the Big Ten being on NBC and Notre Dame potentially going forward as an NBC partner in this primetime package, this would allow, like we've talked about, there's been talk about Notre Dame potentially doing more Big Ten scheduling, as a partner with NBC because of NBC's primetime Big Ten package. And again, this fits that as well.
Absolutely.
If Notre Dame and UCLA are both playing, and you could even throw like Oregon and Washington into the mix there if you wanted to, like any of those schools, you're just talking about West Coast trips. But if we'll just keep it at USC and UCLA, if they're both playing them, then NBC would be able to televise both the home game and the road game every year that Notre Dame has when they play those schools because of the Big Ten primetime package. So, I mean, it would be a bonanza for everybody, really, if you replace Stanford with UCLA.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. It's win-win. And, depending on what happens to Stanford over the next couple of weeks, you got to drop them like a hot potato. I mean, I wanted to drop them anyway, but this gives you a beautiful excuse to do so. Beautiful.
Right. Keith asks, Stanford and Cal to the ACC. How is that cost effective? It's not, but none of this stuff is cost effective. But for the ACC, it's even less so because there's no benefit to the ACC in adding Cal and Stanford because the reason they're leftovers is because they're leftovers. Nobody wants them. They're not in a desirable market. Their football programs are not good enough. And all you would be doing is adding a couple more, also ran football programs to your conference and making everybody in your conference have to make all these trips out to the West Coast every year to markets, to a market that nobody cares about. You'd have half-filled football stadiums out there. So we have the official announcement.
Yeah, came in an email.
All right. I don't know if we're supposed to talk about it.
I don't know. It's just funny that they said formerly known as. No, it's still known as that name. Like, I don't. Anyway. It's Notre Dame. They do things the way they want to.
Right. Fill in the blank, Vince. It's blank that Colorado football players have their social media handles on the back of their practice jerseys now.
Unfortunately, probably shades of the future. Like, that's so stupid. It's so dumb. But here's the thing. Like, if you go on Notre Dame's website, like, let's say basketball, for example, on the roster, it's got their social media handles on there.
There are schools all over the country doing this on the websites. Here's the IG account. Here's the TikTok account.
Putting their names on the back of the jersey or putting their social media crap on the back of their jersey is just one extra step. I mean, I think it's dumb, personally. They're practice jerseys. You're not putting your names on the back of your practice jerseys. This isn't the NFL. And most NFL teams don't even do that anyway. Yeah. But you're going to put your social media on the back? It's one step too far for me. But it wouldn't surprise me if that became a normal thing.
I was going to say, I'm surprised more schools aren't doing it already.
Yeah.
Alex said that UCF did it with game day uniforms. I would not be down with that.
No, that's hard no for that one.
But at the same time, it's, like when you're talking about NIL and just everything else going on right now, this is part of the personal brand. And like I said, I'm surprised that they don't do more, just like look at Notre Dame and how they have the different football players will, they'll get the video of themselves doing whatever, and
Sure.
they'll tweet it out or put it out on the gram and whatever else, and
Well, they
like
got what?
the stuff with the recruits last
Yeah,
week where they were sharing stuff on social media. So
they got was it Braylon James? That's the rapper that's on the team, like
I
using
think
his
so.
music,
I think
using
so.
his
Oh,
music
that's right.
over the
That's right.
video. Like, I mean, they're all doing stuff. It's just not as in your face. Wouldn't it be funny, Sean? Wouldn't it be funny? Colorado start out 0-4, 0-5, or something like that, and the cameras are always going to be in Dion's face, and he's going to be like, "That's it. I told you this was going to happen. I'm taking your names off the back of your practice jerseys. No more social media names.
No more handles. Have you seen the Jose Ramirez knockout punch of
just
Tim Anderson?
classic. The call is better than the actual video, by the way.
I know. I wish we could use it.
You've heard it though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Down goes Anderson.
It was great. Just,
I
mean, it was funny because I think it's Jim Passon covers like Chicago sports or whatever. And he's like, it was the next day, and he's like, I've been in 2 different clubhouses today, and if I've heard "Down Goes Anderson" once, I've heard it 1,000 times. Like, everybody's talking about it. Freaking
and it was almost like hockey, because usually it's just a big scrum.
Yes.
And they start wrestling around with each other. You don't see them actually square off with each other, and like the umpire backs off like a hockey official would do. The umpire kind of backs away, and they just kind of go at it, and got a couple shots in, and then Ramirez with that big heavy hand just caught Anderson on the jaw, and man, I've never seen a baseball player go down like that. That was,
I mean, it didn't even look like he hit him that hard, and he just
I know. Anderson got a 6-game suspension. Ramirez got 3. And I don't know if you saw any of the follow-up. Apparently, it had to do with Anderson has been he's known for like harder tags than necessary, I guess. And Ramirez and the Guardians had kind of called him out on it earlier, either in the season or the series. And I guess he pulled somebody off the bag, a Cleveland player off the bag on Friday, pulled him off the bag, and he was called out. And then Ramirez went in, and I think that, they kind of said some stuff, and Anderson tagged him hard again. And Ramirez was like, all right, well, I'm done with that. Here we go. So he dropped him. It was like, Tyler saying that's probably the best fight that I've seen since Nolan Ryan pounding down Robin Ventura.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
Probably
I even know that one. But it's just like Anderson squares up, and I saw somebody else do a breakdown of the video, which is why I had too much time on my hands today. But he squares up like a lefty. It's like, dude, you're not a lefty. So that didn't work out too well for him. And then he tries to go swing, and then he just takes one. I just don't know how that knocked him out. It just didn't look like it hit him, but he went down like a sack of potatoes, man.
I know.
Just like a sack of flour, some sort of a sack. He's just down. And then he couldn't even walk off the field. Did you see that footage?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
He's Drew, oh my gosh, man. He got just hammered, and then he gets double the game.
I'm surprised he was cleared to play the next day if he was.
Man, there's no way. There's no way. Well, he got suspended for 6 games, so unless he's
I guess they're both appealing the suspensions,
of course.
But something else happened this afternoon. I didn't have this on your rundown, but it started to blow up this afternoon. Baltimore Orioles TV announcer Tim Brown has been suspended for what are basically some pretty innocuous and objectively pragmatic comments that he made. They were on TV in Tampa Bay a couple of weeks ago. The Orioles were wrapping up their series with the Rays. Brown said, quote, "The Orioles have won more games against them this season than the last 2 combined," end quote. He was, and the Orioles are in first place right now. And he's basically talking about how the Orioles have not had a lot of success against the Rays. And I mean, they haven't had success against anybody before this year, basically. But that was apparently Peter Angelos or John Angelos, the Orioles owner, didn't like the comments
What?
and has had him suspended for saying the Orioles have won more games against them this season than the last two combined.
That's just
because
a fact. That's not even an opinion.
apparently he's not being glossy and homerish enough. He's stating fact. I mean, what he's doing is talking about how good they've played against them this year. It's not a negative.
That's a total positive. It's like, hey, we haven't been great in the past, but we're doing great now. Or the Rays have been in the World Series, and the Baltimore Orioles have won more games against them this year than they have in a bunch of years back. Like, how is that even a negative? Wow.
I know.
Now, is this owner just like an old crotchety idiot?
Well, yes, the Angelos, that's
okay.
That's basically why Baltimore has not been very good for a long time.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But again, if you have to go that far, to be positive, and like I watched this clip, and a lot of other people have watched this clip, and like nothing is said, like in a sarcastic tone, in a negative tone. It's basically all just, hey, folks, the Orioles are, going for the series win, and, here's all this stuff, and they've won more games against them this season than the last two combined, that kind of thing. And
that's just a fact. Those are numbers. The owner doesn't like math, apparently. I wonder if he's a new math guy.
I don't know. Okay. I've been meaning to ask you this. I meant to ask you this last week. Paul Reubens.
This was supposed to be on Friday with Jesse, and my guess is Jesse's too young to really have crossed paths with this young man, old man, whatever.
Paul Reubens, a.k.a. Pee Wee Herman, unfortunately passed away last week after a battle with cancer. So I'm curious, Vince, as a child of the 80s, where did Pee Wee show up on your radar?
It's Pee Wee's Playhouse, man. Used to watch it all the time as a kid. Love that show. I watched it all the time. Cowboy Curtis, Pee Wee Herman, The Talking Window, all of it. Like I used to watch that show all the time as a kid. And then he came out with some movies and things like that, and they were a little weird. But so is Pee Wee Herman. I mean, Pee Wee's Big Adventure was where he got his bike stolen and all that. Like, I don't remember what year that was that it came out, but there were parts of that movie that like scared me, which really worries me as to how old I might have been when that came out. Let's see. Pee Wee's Big Adventure. Oh, okay. 1985. I was 4. All right. So I feel better about that. But there were parts of that movie that like scared me, And we used to use quotes from that movie all the time. Like, I'm a rebel, daddy. Rebel. Stuff like that. Like, Large Mart, like all of that's like, that was, it was a part of my childhood. Not a big part, but it was a part of my childhood. There's no doubt about that.
He was a big sports fan, I guess, too.
Really?
And,
I didn't know that.
And unfortunately, and I just heard an interview, not with him, but someone was kind of talking about him. And they were talking about his sports fandom and stuff like that. He did like a big, long sit down with Pee Wee a few years back and was kind of trying to make, I guess he had pitched, like a movie, kind of trying to make a comeback kind of thing. And it wasn't really going anywhere, unfortunately. And then literally within the week after I heard this interview, I heard that he passed. So
I had no idea he was battling cancer. And that's,
I didn't either.
That's a shame, obviously. Yep. And I know his reputation was tarnished with some off the air things, and it's unfortunate. But it was a part of my childhood. There is absolutely no doubt about that. Pee Wee's Playhouse.
I figured with you being in that age demo that it had to be right in there. So I'm glad it was. I'm glad you had some good stories.
Right smack dab in the middle of it, man.
I was a little too old to hit that. I just remember him on, some of the other, like doing some MTV stuff, I think. And, like you'd see I know you are, but what am I? Or, whatever. So
dude, I thought it was hilarious when I was a little kid, man. Like you're talking, if he made that movie in 1985, I don't know when Pee Wee's Playhouse was on, but let's see, Pee Wee's Playhouse. Let's see when that was on. It ran from 86 to 90. So that means I was 5 to 9. Like that was totally in my wheelhouse of time. You know what I mean? Like that was me. So, and you only had, people have to remember too, some of the young guns in here, you got to remember what was available back in the late 80s, like TV wise. It's not like you could sit down and, you had a bunch of channels at your disposal. Like cable was at the very least in its infancy, you know what I mean? There wasn't a whole lot of options out there. It was mostly whatever you got on the air. Cable boxes were very, very new. So
yeah,
Pee-wee's Playhouse was right there, man. It was right there.
But then there were a lot of, again, like after he passed last week, there were a lot of stories about how, like there was some, like you'd hear stories about how he was like really, really nice to people, like when the camera was off. There was like someone who was like relatively new, like on the TV set or something like that. And he invited him over to his house. And so the guy showed up and Pee-wee like made him sandwiches and just kind of showed him around the house and all his memorabilia and stuff like that. And then that was it, just a nice guy, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very fortunate.
Yeah.
That's right, John. That's right, John. We had cartoons every Saturday morning was Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner and all that.
Like, I don't remember how, how it landed as far as like when it was on, you know what I mean? Like, was it on Saturday morning? I honestly don't know.
I'm not sure,
but I'd have to look that up. But all I know is I watched it a bunch when I was a kid and it was a staple in our house. Yeah. So, definitely watched it.
All right. Well, we will wrap up with that. And again, for the live viewers, Tuesday's show is going to start at 5:00. The live show on YouTube will start at 5 because we're going to go out and we have Notre Dame football practice to watch at 7:00 Tuesday night. So we'll do the show 5 to 6. That's going to be it. We're not going to be able to go over tomorrow. So we'll kind of be in and out in an hour, but we'll start at 5. And then, of course, Wednesday, we'll be talking all about what we see out there.
Yeah, baby. Should be good. Hopefully it's full go scrimmage with refs, the whole thing. So that's what I'm hoping.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, man.
All right. Hit the like button before you leave and subscribe, rate, and review. Vince, Kristen, happy anniversary once again.
And happy anniversary to Sean and Stacy.
Thank you very much.
We're only 11 years behind you. We're catching up. No, we're not.
Right.
It's exactly the same. Always.
All right. We will talk to you tomorrow on IB Nation's